Ah, yes. Good morning, everybody. I'm about to introduce you to our co-host for the morning. I'll tell you who that is in just a second. But here is the talented and brilliant Simpiwe Mtetwa, who is in the studio in Johannesburg. Also in the studio in Johannesburg, and she's got reasons for that, is the great Celeste Ntuli.
Hello!
Look at her. There she is in all of her glory. One of South Africa's finest comics, one of our most successful acts, someone who has managed to make us laugh through all the good times and the bad, and she continues to do that. She's also one of the lead attractions for the upcoming Roast of Khanyi Mbau, which is going to take place on Comedy Central. And we heard all about that just the other day from none other than Pops. And I thought about you, Celeste, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have her? But she's so famous and important, I'll bet you she's too busy to talk to us. And then guess what? They said, oh, there goes my line.
Wow.
But she says she can do it. So I couldn't believe it. Your people told us you were free, you were available, and I was very, very happy about that. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Although I'm straight from here, I'm going to the show. I'm shooting this beautiful show where women are asking men to marry them. Interesting.
Wait, what? Wait. Women.
Yeah. It's called We He Say Yes. So women come in when they feel like it's been too long. You know those men that pay lobola halfway and I'm coming back, and then it's 10 years down the line. He's never been back home with the rest of the cows.
Oh my God.
Until they start the whole process over again. So you can just, call your man, or if you feel like you've been dating this person forever and they're not making any move. I mean, it's changing the narrative of, who must ask who to marry them.
Yeah,
because at this point...
Yeah, I mean, the tradition's always been that the man would ask the woman, but there are so many pathetic men around these days. And I'm not being nasty to my own sex here, but men are not like they used to be. We used to hunt, we used to defend, we used to fight, we used to go to war, we used to be able to conquer and destroy and take control. And now we're mostly pussies. So
oh, thank God that language is allowed here. Well, yeah, I'm free again.
The fact is, and I know this because some of my friends who are guys are looking for dates, and they complain about the women that are available, and then some of the friends of mine who are girls, they complain about the quality of the guys that are out there. So I mean, it's good that there's a show like this.
Yeah, and I think because I did this, what is this? Our Perfect Wedding and The Gift of Love. So for some reason, as a single person, God has been giving me these beautiful love shows. Hence, I've gotten to understand what is the problem. I think we all dream of that old school love, but we don't want the responsibility that came with that old school love. The sustainability of marriages in our parents was based on so much sacrifices that we are both parties, men and women, are not willing to do. But we still want the fairy tale. I think that's the problem. We all want.
Yes.
And we see the fairy tale in other people's marriages, and we see how great some people's relationships look from the outside, but we don't see the work they put in to keep it going. And that's the tough part.
Exactly. And also for someone like me, everyone asks me, I think I haven't been in a serious relationship in that. Well, I have. But I haven't been successful. It's always been dating. We're going somewhere, back to searching.
No.
He's not the one. Don't worry. Not the one.
I don't look at any of it as success or failure, though, because I don't know. These days, I would rather be in a short-lived, unsuccessful relationship where you don't mess each other around and take 6 or 7 years to decide that you actually don't want to be together. To me, be with each other for a short while. Oh, look in the mirror one day, look at the person you're with, go, don't know if this is working. It's time for us to maybe part ways. Then at least you're not wasting each other's time if that person does want to settle down. I mean, I remember one of my ex-girlfriends said to me once, yeah, where are we going? So I said to her, well, what do you mean? I'm going to work just now. And she didn't think that was funny.
What?
And then I said,
Lord.
I said to her, what are you talking about? She's like, well, and this is about what, 8 years or maybe more, you go, oh, and my biological clock is ticking. So she didn't really sound like that, by the way. I just like to make it sound like she was an idiot and ignoramus. So then I said, so what are you talking about? She's like, well, the clock is ticking. I know what this is. You want to have kids.
That's the equivalent to what are we? After you've met someone and you spent the night and you're like, so what are we? And they're like humans.
You see, real answers to the questions you never want to ask anyway. So
but isn't it sad, Celeste, that now we have to use Tinder, we have to use reality TV shows. People are so useless at dating. They're so bad. They've lost the ability to do this, that now they need all this other stuff, technology and entertainment, and someone like you hosting the show to help them get together. It's pathetic.
Gareth, never ever take any love show ever. Like it's like pathetic.
It is pathetic.
You don't even feel for them. Like your emotions are like Okay, thank you, number one, for validating my past relationships. They've been short-lived, but they've been meaningful. So that's why I take them for what they are, because I'm grateful that I've never had a relationship where I look back and say, what have I learned here? And I feel like I've wasted my time. There's always something I've learned, growth. Also, I think we underestimate, more especially from a woman point of view. I know we're living in a women power and everything else. I think there's a level of, as women, we haven't gotten ourselves in a space where we are honest with ourselves. Because as much as you can be in a disadvantaged situation, but you still need to be responsible for your own freedom and expression. When it comes to relationships, all women assume they were done wrong. Sometimes the problem was you, and you must go back to that relationship and say, like my past relationship, I realized that I wasn't ready. Like my focus was more on my work. I realized how much I didn't sacrifice for that relationship. I didn't change any international flights, no planes, no travels. I met the guy, but my plans were exactly what I did. I didn't fit him in. Now this is my doing. You know what I mean? And then we quickly assume that, this guy, you know what? But I realized later that actually I didn't do much work. I just existed and gave my VJJ. And I thought that was enough.
Well, it should be. But the fact is, to go back to your point, like there are a lot of men who are just not capable of making decisions these days. They've been
definitely
in South Africa. We've got two versions of these kinds of wimpy men. They're the kinds that the mother has helped them throughout their life, and they're mommy's boys, and they can't make a decision for themselves. And we know that's a big problem. We know that's a problem with a lot of these guys who look successful. But they still, mommy has to okay everything they do, there's a lot of that and this goes across black, white, old, young, rich, poor. There are a lot of these mommy's boys, and they're pathetic, and they can't make a decision, and unless their mother helps them with everything, they're useless, right? Those people.
I know.
The other kind are just the ones who are useless with women. They just they have no confidence, they have no backbone, they're terribly insecure. And there's nothing about those kinds of guys that turns a woman on. Nothing. I've never met a woman who said, "You know what I'd like? I'd like my man to be weaker." I've never met a woman who said, "You know what? I want a man who just does exactly what he's told and is completely harmless and pathetic, and I can order him around." There's no, even the most tough, hardcore woman in the world who's like a proper feminist and out there in the front lines and has a powerful job and believes in herself. Even those women, they want a man who can occasionally meet them at the same level, if not all the time meet them at the same level. Otherwise, they don't respect them.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're still a woman. I always say this, that as much as I work for myself, I love my work. And this whole thing of, if you are working and making money for yourself, automatically you don't need a man. No, I do. I just want salary as well. Like, I just want to be paid as well. But the whole thing of equating that if you sustain yourself and you can work for yourself, therefore you don't need a man. People don't understand. When I'm home, I need a man. I don't even want to change the globe. I don't want to change the tire. I don't want to do anything. I want that strong man. I want to be like, You know, because that's my moment where I'm because you know, 24/7 I'm with the comics, I'm with the comedians, I'm macho.
I know a woman, and you are in a very male space, so you have to kind of level up to not let the guys walk all over you, and none of those guys are going to give you a chance if you don't stand up for yourself. So you know all about that. But I do want to ask you both, because I saw an episode of this for the first time last week. Was it on last week? Thursday or Friday? I put on The Real Housewives of Cape Town.
Oh wow! You watched the reality
TV? Have you watched that before us, Gareth? Really?
So let me explain, because normally I would never watch a show like this, but I was going through the channels, and it was cold, and I was sitting there, and I had the fire going, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this show a try so that I can talk to Simpiwe about it, because Simpiwe I knew would have something to say about the show. So I'm like, all right, well, this for the next half hour, I'm gonna consider this research. I'm gonna watch this show. Well, do they have a horrible, horrible collection of women on there? The most awful, just the most self-absorbed, materialistic, fake, irritating people I've ever seen in my life. Just horrible. The first woman is like this very, and I don't know, these people might be nice off screen, because you and I know, Celeste, there are lots of people who, you know, they're forced to play a role on camera, but then off camera they're not so bad. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But the way the show has shown these people, this one woman is just this fake. The first episode is her getting fucking Botox in her lips, and she's got this horrible daughter who's asking her for money the whole time, and they go shopping together, and then she does this line, which whenever anyone says this to you, you know you got a big problem on your hands as a guy. She goes, people always see me and my daughter out, and they think we're sisters. And she's got this terrible, she's just fake. And then she's got her black friend. I mean, she might be her friend, but this is a white woman who looks like a Barbie, and she's when they call us black and white Barbie. And then the black friend is also one of the housewives, and she's got this husband who she just doesn't have any respect for. And she's dolled up to the nines with like nails up to fucking here. You know, you cannot. I know how she opens a car door, any of that stuff, because everything for her must be really difficult to do with these. These nails are 7 times longer than they should be. And then there's an Indian woman or a I can't work out if she's an Indian or colored woman. It's not important, but she is so dismissive of her husband. Like, she shows him in the picture, but he has to bring her coffee in bed. She's lying there in bed, and she's like, I don't feel like getting up today. And I look at these 3, and the other 2 I'm not even talking about you, because there are another 3 that I didn't even see that much. I couldn't stop. I mean, after that, I was like, I'm in for the whole episode. And this collection of just these first 3 I've described to you are like the most off-putting women. And I thought to myself, they have money, right? That's why they're on this show, because the Real Housewives have to have money. Yeah. It's this whole thing. It's based on this format from America. But I looked at these 3 and I thought, if you put a gun to my head, I wouldn't want to marry them, even if they each gave me all of their money as part of the deal. I still wouldn't want to be around them. I would much rather be with someone who looked more average, who had a personality, a sense of humor, didn't take themselves so seriously, wasn't so self-absorbed, wasn't so irritating and annoying. I mean, these are the most awful, awful people. I cannot tell you. Please watch the show if you haven't seen it and tell me what you think. But if you have seen it.
But I haven't seen it, but the format is the same. And it's very unfortunate that we've taken this as these are the women. Like, everyone wants to be a housewife for this reason. Because what they show is opulent, if it is opulent, if whatever you call it. Yeah. But it's just the splash of money and splash of lifestyle. But the funny thing is, most men with money prefer those women because they hardly put up anything that is really challenging to them.
Yeah.
Yes. They don't care whether you go shop for like a whatever money, go and say, me and my daughter. They don't really care. All they care about is that their egos are polished and properly, nursed for some time. But the thing is, most men love those women. That's the thing. That's why we even have a genre of housewives, because That's what most men love as housewives.
But the men are not watching those shows. It's not the men watching those shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course not.
It is made for us to look like we want to be those women. It's an influence to all women to stop with this feminist fight and understanding whether you want to have your dream ambition. Just be prim and proper, pretty, be a Barbie doll, and marry a rich guy. That's what these shows are for.
Yeah. But Gareth, I watched the trailer, and just from the trailer alone, I was like, I'm not watching this. I've watched enough Real Housewives, what's what to tell you which is a good one and which is one that I'm not gonna miss out. And the reason why I could tell that this was not gonna be a good one, it's Cape Town. Like, Cape Town doesn't have drama. It's all about like, let's just relax and chillax and be about the beautiful ocean that's right ahead of us. Whereas what gets us into these reality shows is the drama. Like, you want people to be like, yeah, I'm from the ghetto and I have money, and this is why I have the Cardi B long nails, and you can't tell me nothing. That's why people watch it, because then they meet Sophia, and Sophia's like, oh my gosh, is this you? Yes, I can afford this Louis Vuitton, girl.
That's why people watched Kumbule Kaya, because you knew that was going to be huge, heavy drama, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's all the same format. And I wonder why. Like, if you're a happy, contented, rich woman who's being catered to, your every need is being looked after by your rich husband, or you've made your own money, whichever it is, why you'd want to be on a show like this? It can't be good for anyone's reputation. I mean, no one's been on a show like that, and everyone afterwards has had more respect for them.
Well, of course. Well, but they do still have the money. Some people don't care much about respect these days.
They just care about money.
If you're gonna put more zeros on them, and like Simpi was saying, what is gonna kill the Cape Town one is because Cape Town is pretending to be Europe. Meanwhile, these shows format are working on ghetto, you know.
Yes.
So subconsciously, Cape Townians feel like, yes, we are. They're like Khanyi Mbau. They're like, we are light, but we are not here. we are in South Africa, but we are not. We are in Europe. In our minds, how we.
Let's not forget, Cape Town, despite all that you've said, which is absolutely true, Cape Town is also a way more dangerous place than anywhere else in South Africa. The gangsterism there is hardcore. You know, you got more drugs, I reckon, in Cape Town than you do in Joburg.
Irony. Oh, definitely you will have more drugs. There's more money and more white people having love drugs. And of course...
and the Nyaupe ones.
And the Nyaupe one. We have our cheaper version. The cocaine is much...
Can't afford cocaine, get this.
Yeah.
But
get high on a discount.
What a show. I mean, I'm not going to watch another episode of this, but it was interesting to see because, you kind of forget how... Like, to some people, as you said, Celeste, this is the most important thing. As long as there's money in the bank, they think that's all that's important, and good for them. If you could be that superficial in your life, awesome. I respect you, because at least you know what you're all about. You're not one of those people who's, trying to be more than you are. You're not trying to figure out the secrets of the universe. You don't care about, the grand philosophy of this, or you're not trying to write a 550-page novel. You're just trying to spend money that you earned or that your husband earned. You just go out there and you buy clothes. That's fine. That's enough.
But I will say, also, like, for ladies that live in that world, their priorities are quite different. It's all about being in the A-list circle and being on a show like this. I mean, we didn't know any of the women you're talking about, and now we know them. And so that means they're going to start getting invited to more events. So we're going to see more of them. Before you know it, they're going to get even more brand deals and sponsorships, because now they have a following and now they have influence. So for them, they are career-wise, they're climbing up the ladder. Somebody knows them now.
This is the main reason why I believe art and entertainment industry must have two departments: the artists and the influencers.
Yes,
because
different things.
Because the thing is, whenever they say they're climbing up the ladder, it is assumably in the entertainment space. Meanwhile, there's no contribution artistically.
Right.
That they do. They just here because they are known and famous, which is good for them, but it's horrible for art. It's horrible for the craft. It's horrible for what we're trying to say and share.
I think you've just made the most sense of anybody who's tried to evaluate that space for the longest time, because we're so confused because of things like the Kardashians,
Those are influencers.
Correct. Before that, we knew what people were doing on a stage or on a screen because they could sing, they could dance, they could make people laugh, they could act. There was a skill involved. There was a skill, there was a craft, there was something that you had to learn. You couldn't just go on TV and sing or dance. Now, of course, thanks to reality TV and thanks to these people who are influencers in social media, those people are confused for the entertainers. And then, invariably brands and the entertainment business as a whole is disappointed when these people turn out to be very, very boring and unskilled.
And bad. Have you ever tried to be in a production or set with an influencer? After all the influence, except for the time when they say action, there's no influence. You're like, why are you here? Because this is the core, this is the crux of why you're here. And that's why we have this whole horrible umbrella of look into entertainment space. And that's why even parents are reluctant to influence kids to do craft and art. I think we take it for granted how much art is important. I understand that the influencing part makes money, whatever it is. But I think, like I say, I think we should have two departments. Art and entertainment, those who are influencers, be an influencer, and then we leave the space. Like, for example, awards. We must just have awards that are for artists and then awards for influencers.
Right.
Yes.
And stop
this will work.
Stop hiring influencers for jobs you need artists for, and stop hiring artists for the influencer jobs.
Thank you.
Because they want you, for example, oh, Celeste, we want you to do this, but can you tweet this or can you post it? And you're like, no. You pay me to be on the stage to make people laugh. That's my job. Or if you need me to do this or that or the other, I can do these things because these are my skills. But don't get me confused with someone who tweets.
Thank you.
And I think the same goes obviously for these influencers, because they're not good at anything except the social media aspect of this. And usually it's a very short-lived thing. And I know so many people have been hired in jobs in the entertainment industry because they've got a following on social media, but they're shit at everything. So someone follows them, but they actually don't have a skill. They don't have any ability.
I love the
sit down in a room with them, you'll tear your hair out. You'll be so bored.
Listen, and I love the fact that the recent stuff that we've been seeing online, more especially Netflix movies, there've been people with no numbers, with no following, but they give us the most amazing productions. And I love and I applaud the acting space for that, because recently it has been about numbers and not about telling the story, which is why you look at the thing, you're like, why this horrible acting? Who put these people together? But you realize it's because of the numbers. But when it's time to sell, then they use the real artists. And I love what you said about being used as an influencer when you're an artist, because I've been getting a lot quite lately, like, oh God, I'm not an influencer. I'm not an influencer.
You must take a picture with the cup on the right side and you're like, hi.
Because the thing is, what happens when I get those jobs, I tend to do a little bit of creativity. I can't just post. It's not in me. I need to give you the story that I'm saying. I don't care whether it's a product from a brand or whatever. That's not a point. The point is when you are faced to be given something to say, can you say this? Can you share this information? It's up to me to create an artistic way of transforming this information, of sharing this information.
You don't just go on a stage. You probably could, but you just don't walk onto a stage and start a show.
No.
Just because you know you have hundreds of thousands of followers
who
will post stuff. You get on. You've figured out every line. You've thought about every joke. You've thought about every response that you might have. There's a plan. That's why people would hire you for everything from the kind of very strict corporate event to a wacky, completely insane comedy festival where you're allowed to do whatever you want, right?
Yeah. And it's a beautiful process too. I think we've taken out the whole beauty of seeing someone doing their thing very well. I don't do radio, But the minute people say Cliff Central, damn, you guys have been doing this. We've been listening to you. It's not about just having a mic in front of you. It's the skill that you put behind. That's why you Cliff. That's why you Gareth Cliff. It's because of the reason of what you're saying. And what you're saying, it's well thought of. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a process to the thing. That's why we have different genres. And now, because we have numbers, they just ask you, do you want to be on radio or you want to be on TV? Because of the numbers, not because you have something to say.
Well, I want to just give you a couple of props here, because it's been a while since we've had you on the show, and people who are not familiar. I mean, you're called the Queen of Zulu comedy, but you are the first local female comic to record a one-woman show DVD. I know this is years ago, but I mean, it's worth reflecting on this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you did study entertainment.
Yeah.
So that's where you developed your skill, which we're talking about at the moment. You've been an actress in many different shows, but in Zanzi's telenovela Isibaya, I remember that, very, very important, very successful show. That was all the way back in 2013, right?
Yeah, I did that for 8 years, which is why I'm taking a bit of a break when it comes to soapies, and I'm concentrating more on comedy.
Yes,
because I took 8 years of my, and I spent my 30s acting like a 40-year-old. Someone, I missed myself.
They made you act like someone older than you were.
Older, rural, polygamist relationship. Like I was nothing like that woman, but I understood her. I had to understand her, which is why I enjoyed playing her so much, because it took me. It's something that it's totally different. Like, I had to go and ask a woman that was on a polygamous relationship to make me understand what do they feel like, so that I can be able to portray the character better. Because otherwise I was going to judge the character knowing Celeste,
Yes,
like,
of course.
Why would she do that? But because I had to embrace her and understand her and like her and know her and know why, all the whys of her life, I had to go and ask and find out. And quite honestly, I'm sitting here today. That show changed my perspective when it comes to polygamous relationship, more especially in a cultural sense, because I got to understand why most women would like it that way. There are deeper reasoning beyond just saying men want 4 women or 3 wives. There's a sense of family. Well, when it's done right, let me emphasize that, when it's done right.
I mean, it's a fascinating discussion, and we've spoken to people who, like Pateki de Holomisa, from the traditional leaders, but I haven't actually had a woman on to describe it from her point of view. First of all, where did you know somebody already, or did you have to go and find somebody who lives in a family like that? And how did you start the conversation? Because they're also going to think, oh, this woman's here because she wants to make a mockery of our situation.
Luckily for me, I'm from the rural areas, so she was not far off, because I'm a rural girl. I might be a city woman now.
Where are you from?
Mpangeni, anyway. Okay. And when I say rural, I literally spent
Zululand.
Yeah, proper. I never went to white schools. I went to township schools, and those were more like white schools. Because it was better.
There's a bit of a
better than rural schools.
I drove through Pongola the other day, and I saw like these kids walking, because it was a Friday, and I saw them walking back from school. And you see where people live, because their houses are dotted along the landscape, and you see the cows, and you see the goats, and you see like how people live in that part of KZN. And Mpangeni is about as like, that's rural stuff. There's no you don't have massive supermarkets and shopping malls. You've got little strip malls, little shops, little general dealers, and you've got people selling stuff, like vendors selling stuff under those little sort of what do they call them? Shelters, And I thought about these kids walking, and I wondered, like, I'm pretty sure that there are kids in that part of the country who will walk 20 kilometers to and 20 kilometers back from school every day. Not even think about it.
But I was, because my parents were those tuck shop people, but my mom was a nurse, and my mom comes from a family of 11, and they also grew up in rural areas. Yes, so I have come from a huge family. That's why they had to stay in the rural areas, because there's 8 of us in my family. So they had 8 kids. So I grew up with a family of 10 and possibly 15, including the people that were helping and the people that were staying from time to time. So my experience of rural spaces is much more. I like how people, whenever they view rural life that has no bougie in it, as suffering. But the minute people have money, they go to the Kruger National Park to find quietness. I'm like, that's where I grew up. Why are you calling that suffering? People here in the cities take time off on Saturday to go hike. But people were laughing at us for walking up and down the mountain to the water. It's exactly what I've been doing, which is why I'm 42 and I have such lovely body because of that walking up and down. What do you mean? So like whenever people come to me and ask me to play township something, I'm like, I never grew up in a township. I know that rural life. I know that obviously we were better off in my family. We were not rich, but because of where we're staying and both my parents were working and they're working for themselves, it was they took care of us. It was not lavish, but we had what we needed. But so
there's something beautiful about growing up in that kind of environment, because while you have the tradition, and a lot of people will say, oh well, it's very backward for women and all of because there's all these woke people now who think that they know all the answers and that they can wipe away history with one gesture. It's rude.
Yeah.
The people in those rural areas are at least living closer to the way that their ancestors have for hundreds and hundreds of years. They know the land. They know each other. They speak the language. There is a sense of community. And people actually have a purpose. They wake up in the morning. They've got things to do, people to see, places to go. They've got families to look after. It's a life. It's not like the life we have in cities where you have work and you have home. And the two actually don't mix very well. And sometimes home is miserable because, you can't afford this or you can't afford that. In a rural area, you grow your own food. You have to walk to where you're going. People have conversations. They have time. There's a lot about that that's not this thing that people feel they need to look down on rural people. There's this superiority complex that city people have over themselves, that they somehow are better.
And that's why I always say, if you want to understand what is a rural life, it's an urban life with no recognition. It's like suburbs. Because people are saying to me, why would you stay? Because my house, as much as I'm single, I stay with my sister and my family from time to time, because I live in a very bigger space than what I supposedly need to live in. Sure. But I'm telling you, it's purely because I want to see the trees. I want to go out in the morning.
Yes.
There's a level of connecting with nature daily that centers one and balances your thoughts and balances who you are. I mean, people take it for granted why the land was stolen in the first place. You need all of these things. And to look down upon people who are in rural spaces is the crazy thing. So when I grew up in those rural, I had those women who were in a polygamous relationship. Though I was not close to them, but I will see it. I know of people. I went to a wedding, to MC a wedding that was of a polygamous relationship. The guy was marrying someone and introducing the next wife that is going to marry the next year. And I was an MC and he was well off. So going back to my point that I had to ask that lady, it was not that difficult for me to engage, because I came from a space of understanding the culture. I was not asking from a space of being an actress in Joburg, wanting to know this and find out and milk the information. I just wanted to know sincerely from her, emotionally, how has it been for her? Whether in a polygamous relationship or not in a polygamous relationship, women had been oppressed in some time. But I listened to my mom's stories, who grew up in the 60s. My mom in the 60s had the most fascinating lifestyle that I have. My mom was a ballroom dancer, a tennis player in the rural areas, and the nurse. Yes, there was no TV. They had activities. That's how she met my father, because my father had a band with his brother. So you see, they had a life. When you listen to what they got up to day, you understand how much their brains, that's why they could create their own work and have tuck shops and have that secondary economy, sustain themselves.
Didn't need to go and find a job and beg for a job from someone else. They found a way to make themselves useful.
Which is what I took from my dad. Like I was always, quitting because I couldn't stand the format of just having a job. I knew that definitely, surely there's something that I can create and do for myself. And, even before I discovered that I could do comedy, I've always known that because of my parents. So I think it's the undertones of misunderstanding, even in development. The government is not really developing the rural areas because they believe people who live there are just, but there is
waiting
so
for their
much
chance to come to the city. That's what they think.
Listen, most of us, we wish the city was closer to home.
but there's a kind of the quality of life there that we mustn't disregard just because we think we've figured out something better. So I want to just move on to some headlines quickly this morning and hear what you have to say about these things. First of all, the Senzo Miua trial is falling apart. So Advocate Tefo, I don't know if you've been paying attention.
Yeah.
But yesterday he withdrew as legal counsel. And it sounds like he is talking like a conspiracy theorist. He's like, they don't want me to defend these guys. They. He's talking about these mysterious people who are trying to influence things from the outside. And who knows? He may know a whole lot more than he's telling us. But if he doesn't tell us, then we can't protect him and we can't protect these people who've been accused of the murder. We don't know whether they're all guilty, whether some of them are guilty, whether none of them are guilty. We don't know anything about the details of this, and it's all very, very sketchy. And I remember when Senzo was murdered, and we all thought, that's terrible, what a tragedy. But nobody bothered to look into any of the details for so many years. And now suddenly we're trying to scratch around, find out what really happened. Poor old Kelly's getting so much nonsense over this too. And whether you're a fan of hers or not, it seems to me that people just want a scapegoat. They want to blame this on one person. They want to say that person is responsible, whether it's the Advocate Tefo in this case, whether it's Kelly Khumalo, whether it's one of these people in the house who was there suspiciously that night, whether, there are high and mighty and important people in politics who were involved, because everyone's got a theory. Do you have any theory as to why this is all going so crazy?
All I know is that it is crazy for what it is. Like when you listen to it, it's like, damn, it's a movie. It's one of those things where I think we are forced to listen to everyone who's that closely involved. If you are interested to the story, because there's just way too much. Obviously, in no way I'm saying there's a problem with Kelly, or I don't know. Guys, at this point, it's just me as a comedian. I'm saying this is the most interesting. That's why it is news. Sure. Because you can't ignore other parts as well, as much as on both sides. When they say they have two dockets, there's no way you're like,
Yeah,
really?
The whole thing is just, and it shows you what a disastrous state the police are in. I mean, they don't know what's going on. The police are completely out of their depth.
I think that's what it comes down to. Our judiciary and our justice system as a whole, and our police department.
Yeah.
There's just way too many stuff to fix. It's like, why wouldn't they do this and the other and that?
There's too many questions.
Too many questions on both sides. All I can say is that this is a movie. They've just made a documentary, and it is a movie that we will understand this years later, what was up. But I don't think, in my opinion, I doubt if people in the house, as far as I've listened, I'm like, I don't know, man. There's something missing, but I don't think we know exactly enough to point the finger, basically.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I don't know if we're ever going to get a solution to this. I don't know if anyone's going to really get to the bottom of it, because it's been so long now. The longer you leave these things, the more confusing they become.
And also, it's a very unfortunate one that this case is like many other cases.
Yeah.
Most people are like, it's only the famous faces in this one, but it's similar to my neighbor. It's similar to my story. It's similar to the story that I've known. And I think bottom line is our justice system, our police service needs to, There's a lot of fixing to do on those both departments.
Somebody wants to know, Simpiwe, is that a porta potty in the background of your shot there? No, it's not. It's an actual, it's a little locker. But it looks like it could be in the distance, right, Simpiwe? I mean, if you far behind you, if that was a porta potty, but it does look the same shape.
It's locker. Nah. Trying to look cute, trying to give you aesthetics, you know.
So here's an interesting story. Twitter has slumped into the red again, their shares, because Elon Musk has walked away. Now, I heard, again, I've got to stop watching TV. I watched a little bit of TV last night, and I saw the SABC had a tech expert on, who's about as expert as my left foot, talking about why they think that Elon Musk has walked away from the Twitter deal. And it was clear from the beginning that they brought this person on, and this guy was horribly out of his depth. He had no idea of how it worked, and he's one of their technical people.
But so, I mean, what is how is the technical team at SABC?
No, exactly. I mean, SABC, really. If you're getting your info from them, you're in a lot of trouble. So Elon Musk has decided, based on the inability of Twitter to show just how much of what they do is fake, that he's decided it's not worth buying them for the supposed $52 a share that he offered them. Now, what he may have done here, there could be two other parts to this, which people aren't seeing because it's not so obvious. Mm-hmm. The one part is that if you wanted to liquidate some of your shares in Tesla, as a founder and as the CEO, you can't just do that, because then everybody else will be affected by it. The share price will drop. It'll cause panic in the markets. So what you do is you say you're going to buy something else, and then people are like, they're prepared for it. You know, it's like, for example, if a husband says to his wife, I need to draw 500,000 rand out of our account, which you didn't even know we had, but I'm buying you a ring for like 200,000 of that. Then she's like, oh, okay, well, then take the other 200, 300, and let's see what you can do with it and make more money for us. So he needed to do that. That's part of what was going on. And I've simplified it, but there's a lot more complicated an explanation for this. And essentially, he gave himself somewhere around $8 billion in liquid capital, which he can now move around to buy other things. So that's part of what he was doing there. And by offering Twitter money, he was able to liquidate some of those Tesla shares. The other thing is, he may actively have wanted to teach Twitter a lesson. We know he's been saying some things on Twitter about how, you know, the place isn't a forum for free speech. There's far too much censorship going on there. It's not an open platform. They treat people differently depending on your political views. And what he's essentially done is he's really shaken Twitter up so that now it's worth a lot less than it was when he made the first one. So if his purpose was to just troll them and break the company down, he's done that. And if his purpose was to liquidate some capital so that he could buy other things, he's done that. Forget about the actual purchase of Twitter, because now they're saying, oh, no, we want to force you to buy us. So you imagine, again, to go back to the man and woman example, imagine you're a guy and you offer to marry a woman, and then the relationship doesn't look like it's built on truth or honesty. So you say to her, I've changed my mind. I don't want to. We're engaged, and you can keep the ring, which is worth $1 billion in this case, but I'm not going to spend 40 or 50 billion on you because I don't want us to get married. And then she goes, no, I'm going to force you to marry me. That's what Twitter's trying to do to him now. So not a very clever strategy. And they've all hired huge numbers of lawyers. Like, we're talking the biggest law firms in America to get involved in this. So this is not going to go away anytime soon, and it's worth watching. I think it's going to be fun to see what happens here.
It is interesting, and I'm like, damn, imagine if I could now afford to buy Twitter.
Well, he almost did.
That's all I'm thinking about. I'm like, this man can afford Twitter, whether or not. Like, the fact that you can even make request to buy it.
Yeah, the offer.
It's the offer. Yes, the offer. The fact that he can make the offer for me is like, oh Lord, how successful you have to be in life. But I I also understand that Twitter is gonna get a hit because obviously after that talk, I don't tweet a lot because it becomes too much. But I think if Twitter, what I can say is that if Twitter fails on this deal and they try to pick themselves up, forget about Elon Musk. Invest on Black Twitter. That's where your money is.
No. Sure. The first thing they need to do is bring an edit button. If they can do that, they will win some people back. They'll be like, you listen to us.
Like Celeste, I've had my run-ins with Black Twitter before. It is an absolute waste of time to get involved with Black Twitter. There's no value there at all. None of those people have anything to offer. It's all just anger.
Oh yeah. That's why I don't. Twitter people are angry. There's a lot of depression on Twitter.
Very angry.
I don't tweet. I truly don't tweet because you waste your time. Now they say, "Oh yeah, Celeste, you are friends with Gareth."
No. We always knew.
You pretend you love black people, you love white people. And you're like, what? Where does this come from? I know. They don't care.
So here's another story. This is a good story. A couple accused of defrauding Eskom of millions of rands have been granted bail. Now, that's not the good story, but they managed to chase these people down. Their names are Mohammed Esop Muideen and his wife Raisa. They're charged with money laundering, corruption, and fraud. The charges relate to over 600 million rand in Eskom contracts.
What?
Authorities say that the case is part of efforts to unmask the people responsible for capturing Eskom, and they are after them. So the good news is that even though they've been granted bail, the bail's very, very high, so they can't run away to anywhere else. And they are on them. And they're going to find out where these people have put the money, and they're going to get the money back. Well, that's what they tell us. So we can only hope that they're being honest with us.
How do you get to 600 million? It's my thing. Like, how? I can't even steal 10 rands. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you get to 600 million?
Celeste, are you joking? If you don't pay SARS for, even though they've done nothing to earn the money that you have, you get on stage, you make people laugh, people pay you. Straightforward. Why does SARS have to be involved in that? They want their 25 to 45%. And if you don't give it to them, then you go straight to jail. Here, 600 million stolen from the other side, the expense side of government. And these people have been doing it for years.
Nah. This Eskom story. Sorry, this Eskom story sounds like R. Kelly's story. There's so many people who must be arrested.
Many
people were involved. You can't do that by yourself. It can't be the couple. Who else was in this thing?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see. And then speaking of so much money, here's another 654 million rand of South African citrus fruit, which may be destroyed because the EU have made new cold treatment laws. So South Africa's citrus industry faces more than 654 million rands worth of fruit, which was already on the way to Europe, that might have to be destroyed by authorities on that side.
Why?
Now, I wonder who pays the price for that. Because you imagine if you've sent 654 million rands worth of fruit, that is a shit ton of fruit. If you've sent that to Europe and now they've made a new law, which means they're going to destroy it, then they must pay for it.
I don't understand. What is this law?
All right. So apparently the EU's Standing Committee on Plants, Animals, Food and Feed, it's a bunch of bureaucrats, have got together and they voted in a new requirement that will force Southern African countries to implement something called extreme cold treatment to tackle something called a false codling moth. It's a creature that supposedly lives in avocados, maize, citrus fruit, a whole lot of things, making its small and inconspicuous eggs a feared contaminant in fruit shipments. So what they've decided to do is they make the stuff extremely, extremely cold, so it kills the eggs, and then on the other side, you thaw it out, and then you can eat the fruit. But I don't like the sound of this just because the fruit will be horrible. If you freeze something and then you unfreeze it, we all know what that does to it, right?
I don't think they're going to destroy them. I always visit my sister in France. The fruits, all of them are written at the supermarket from South Africa. It was the first time I'm like, wow, there's no made in China here. Yeah. I didn't even know that South Africa makes such beautiful cherries. I'm telling you.
We don't get any of it.
We don't eat those cherries.
We
get them. Yeah, they're expensive somewhere in Woolworths. I'm telling you, when I get it's the most beautiful fruits. Like they ship the most amazing, juiciest, sweetest fruits, and they're written. with the at the thing, the
here's
package
the
of
problem, right? So this moth, which supposedly they've discovered now is a problem, and I mean, look, we're always discovering new things. So far, people have lived if they ate some of the moth's eggs. They're still alive, and if they didn't, then they were weak and they were going to go anyway. It's the same as COVID. So here's the deal: over the past 3 years, South Africa has registered only 19 of these incidents with this moth. Only 19.
Wow.
So little.
In contrast to more than 240 incidents from Europe and other importing countries. The EU has not proposed regulations for those countries, but they're punishing us. Some bullshit.
I'm messing up things here. Okay,
what's your microphone?
The microphone.
Okay.
Do you
Don't
hear
break
me?
nothing, girl. Yes, we can.
I'm not breaking anything. Do you hear me?
We can hear
Yes, we
you.
can hear you.
Okay.
Testing one,
Okay.
two.
There we
All
go.
right, well, they must leave our fruit alone. How dare they?
No, that's just robbery, daylight robbery. They're
think that is-
lying. They're not going to destroy those fruit. They're going to chow them for free. No fruits are going to be destroyed. I don't think so.
Well, we can only hope, because that's going to cost a fortune, and they must pay if they want to destroy it. And you want to destroy the stuff, you pay. Sorry.
Exactly.
You made a new law, you pay.
How much of our, it's so much for us to claim to be global citizens. How much of our say do we have when it comes to these trades? Because I always read stuff about what the Europe said, what the whatever said about the trade and the trading laws. How much of our contribution, because we are also a part of this thing, we also are sending stuff. So
we don't
can't we have a bit of a say?
There's no say. No, none whatsoever. And you'd find that even if they gave us a chance to say something, they don't consider the opinions of Africans or African leaders as strongly as somebody who's from a European standpoint. So I think that's also part of the issue.
They managed to get rid of their stupid Boris Johnson. We're still stuck with our Cyril Ramaphosa.
Oh, two. All the way coming from Gareth and Cape Town. Yeah. Hey, everyone is scared to say anything about Ramaphosa. Okay, wait,
Yeah.
But I don't like that about the president. I'm not comparing. All I'm saying is, as a comedian, we had a good time with Zuma. We were saying everything we want to say. Here it's like you can't say shit.
And he actually had a personality, and as much as a lot of people are pointing the finger at him and everybody wants to blame everything on him, Cyril was there. Cyril was there the whole time.
I always say, it's a whole bunch. And I'm like, for me, it's been so many years. I think it's time. We need a new party altogether. Like,
absolutely.
I don't know, but can they just? It's okay now.
These guys.
Guys.
You know what? Just quickly to throw this in. Oh yeah, go ahead, Simpiwe.
I just talking about a new party. So I was on YouTube, as you guys know, I love YouTube, and there was a YouTuber in the UK who ran for the elections, and they have like a top 10 whatnot, and they're like, only the top 4 actually win. And in that year of running as a YouTuber, he was part of the top 4 elected. Was it last year in the elections? So, and he was trolling the entire time. He was just like, my message is just for the vibes. That's all I'm here for, just for the vibes. And and he got like so many votes from the young people. So maybe we do need a new party, that's from the tubes, and we might get people actually voting. I'm just saying.
No, definitely we need a new blood in South Africa, because I mean, come on.
I saw 2 things that were really funny this week, and I'll mention them quickly. We can talk about them after 7:00. But the first one was Pravin Gordhan got shouted out of Wits the other day. He was
I saw that.
Which was great, because he was also there from the beginning with all this corruption.
Yeah.
Somehow he gets a clean bill of health, and people are like, oh no, he's one of the good guys. He is not one of the good guys. He's been part of the rot from the beginning. He was Minister of Finance while it was happening. He was Minister of what do they call the state corporations, public enterprises? He's been in all of that stuff, and he's still in it now. So I don't know why he gets a free pass and everybody else gets thrown out, and called a thief. He's also part of that. So then that was one thing that made me laugh, because I thought, good, you deserve it. And the other one was I saw Nhlanhla Lux at a protest in Soweto the other day. And apparently the EFF, no, sorry, it wasn't a protest. It was after that tavern shooting, which everybody is still reeling from in Soweto, right? So apparently Nhlanhla Lux arrived, and then the EFF arrived later, like about 8 or 9 hours later. So Nhlanhla Lux says on the TV, he goes, the EFF guys they're only here because I came here first. And they're jealous because their wives like me more than
I saw.
And your children have posters of me on your walls instead of you. I was like, wow. That's some messed up going on.
You know, the thing is, this is a dicey, tricky issue, but I always go back because I grew up in KZN when there was Nkatha and AFP fights.
Yeah.
Both parties had what you call seemingly a reason behind their whatever thoughts of why things should have been like that time. And I understand that most Black South Africans, we grew up in that primary or secondary economy, they call it, tuck shops and stuff. And I understand why we need that. My problem is the Nhlanhla Lux thing, Tutula operation, it only leads to Black people, because now they're talking about tribalism. Some people are talking about Tonga people and friend. That's my worry. I'm not saying I do not see that foreign Pakistanians and Somalians have taken the secondary economy. That needs to go back to the people in the township, definitely. But I'm saying the whole thing of saying the whole umbrella of the problems that we have in South Africa is only that is my problem, because I feel like we have bigger problems. And
well,
all of a sudden,
let's talk about this, because this is actually interesting, and we don't have to be careful on this show about what we say. It's good to throw opinions around. We're not saying anything that is criminal. We're not encouraging anyone to hurt anyone else. But I think this is worth discussing, because there is a lot to take in here, and I don't think we completely understand how economics work in South Africa. But we'll talk about that in a second. I mean, you've got experience with a family who used to run one of these tuck shops. And everybody has an opinion on this, whether you've grown up in townships, in the suburbs, or in the rural areas. There's something to say about this. And also, how do we feel about ourselves, and how do we feel about foreigners? Because that's part of it too. But before we get to that, it is 7 o'clock. Got to take a quick break. And I see a message here from Shani, who says, you have to talk about the NASA story. Well, you're in luck, because we've got Professor David Block, who's our favorite astronomer. He's going to be joining us in a short while. Talk to him about what's going on in the heavens and this new telescope, which is sending back the most beautiful pictures to Earth of what is beyond our solar system. It is absolutely breathtaking. We'll be doing that in just a short while, Shani. Don't go away. Everybody stick around. We've got lots more where that came from.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast. It's not the crash that kills you. It's the sudden stop that kills you. Your body just can't handle 55 Gs.
Yeah.
So the point of all these safety features is to slow the impact on your body down.
Yeah. Increase the time of the accident, essentially.
Increase the time of the exactly. Delay the time of the accident to your body, and let the rest of the car absorb that energy. Side impact bars, crumple zones, so other stuff take
exactly that.
Airbags do that. It kind of takes on the energy in your body moving forward. Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Just because it's about technology, connecting your business to the rest of the world doesn't mean you need to send rockets to space and use complicated solutions. Want to simplicate things? Well, join Jaco Voigt, who is the CEO of Catalytic, on the Unbundled podcast. With skin in the game and a keen focus on educating and assisting you and your business, Jaco decodes all the aspects of connectivity, security, and cloud solutions. Unbundled is brought to you by Catalytic and is available on cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, it is a beautiful Wednesday morning. It's cold as F outside. It's just after 7 o'clock, and we're at the 13th of July already. It's almost the middle of the month, which is just insane. It feels like yesterday we started this year. It's crazy. I just want to quickly tell you about this, and then we get back to Celeste Ntuli and to Simpiwe Mtetwa, 2 Zulu girls. I'm in big trouble this morning.
I like how you say my surname.
Oh.
You say my surname. You say I will say this. You're the first white guy that says my surname the way that we say it. Your N is so strong.
Ntuli. You know what? Like I'll get to these things in a minute, because I always think it's not difficult to just say someone's name properly. It's like the first sign of respect. You know, if you can't, and a lot of people not very talented with language, and maybe they pronounce things in a difficult way because they're just not used to those sounds. But like, you can learn to do this. And if someone's got a really complicated name, part of the fun is like getting to know how to say it properly. You know, I'm not going to judge you if you can't, but it's nice if you do. If people call me Gary, I just immediately get pissed off with them. That's not my name.
But now listen, if you grew up in KZ, we're shorting every name in South Africa. I thought this was our thing.
Okay, Gary.
At least I didn't call you Celeste.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that people who call you that.
The funniest thing is, my people can't say Celeste. It's either they say Celesta or Celeste or Celeste, and then the surname is right. But white people will say my name right, but the surname is messed up.
Do you have a second name?
Oh, Nontlant.
Nontlant.
Go for it.
Okay, good name.
Look at you. Okay, Gareth. Okay. Okay.
All right.
It's looked like you dip into some chocolate for some time to time, because that can never be school. That is a bedroom language now.
I did. Hey, you know what? In 1983-4, I learned Zulu at primary school, and I could say some very basic things. Okay. And I mean, I can still remember some words, and sometimes like a song will come to my mind and I can figure something out, but it's nowhere near what it should be. And then when I moved out of KZN back to Joburg, I learned Setswana, well, a little bit of Setswana. So like then that confused me again completely. But they're little things that you learn along the way.
No, but your tongue is in the right place.
Well, thank you. That's not the first time any woman said that.
Oh, Lord. after I said that, I realized how much it was a setup for a pro punchline.
I'm going to use that. We're going to cut that out. We're going to cut that out of this podcast. We're going to use that again. Celeste Ntuli says. All right. So let me quickly tell you about this. This is something really, really amazing and fascinating that we are able to do because of the kinds of people who we've been working with here at Cliff Central recently. And one of those people is none other than Professor Christopher Paul Szabo. He is absolutely one of South Africa's most esteemed psychiatrists. He's someone who's been lecturing. He's been working at the very edge of psychiatry for the longest time. He's published. He is well respected by his colleagues. And he's been doing a series of shows with us, which if you don't know about this by now, you are missing out in a big way. 2nd season already. It's called Beyond Madness. And Professor Szabo has been talking to colleagues of his. This is like a high-level conversation that the rest of us would not normally be privy to. It's not the kind of stuff you can, talk to your average fall out of the tree psychologist or therapist about. This is really, really involved. And we've talked about such interesting subjects on this show. So here's this week's, and it's really quite a tough one. Have you ever had a loved one with a chronic condition, suffering. There's no prospect of recovery. This person has spoken to you of wanting to die and wishing for an end to their suffering. And we talk about this in such controversial terms in the world now, because some people believe it's completely morally wrong for anyone to decide to end their own life. Other people say it's the most humane thing you can do. And there's not a lot of ground in between those two. What if it was legally possible to grant someone that wish? There are countries that allow it, for example. But this week, on Beyond Madness, there is a controversial issue being discussed: assisted dying. They'll talk to Prof. Willem Landman. They'll talk to Dr. Chris Verster and to Professor Sean Davison, in proud association with Adcock Ingram OTC, the sponsors of Brave. And I got to say again, well done to Adcock Ingram for getting involved in this too, because it takes balls to work on topics that matter, to discuss subjects that people actually care about, and to know that you're treading into territory where people are going to have very polarized opinions. It's a very brave thing. They're sponsors of Brave. They know what they're talking about here. But this is going to be a fascinating episode. You want to watch and listen to Beyond Madness with Professor Willem Landman, Dr. Chris Verster, Prof. Sean Davidson, and Professor Christopher Paul Szabo. It's all going to be happening in this week's edition of Beyond Madness. Don't miss it. So, Celeste is here and Sipiwe is here, and we've got Professor David Block talking later on to us about the amazing world of this new telescope which is being revealed. But before we get to any of that, it is worth discussing, and I'm glad that we've broached this subject entirely by chance. We were talking about Nhlanhla Lux just now. Let's just talk about this secondary economy that Celeste raised just now. And we've got obviously a lot of tension in a country like South Africa where there's not a lot of money going around. There are not a lot of jobs. We know unemployment's probably our biggest threat. We know that people have to make ends meet. We know that this informal economy is not something that the government can help us with, because they don't even know how to tax this economy. And that would be their first priority, because all they want to do is take money out. But it's also very, very difficult to manage because it's disintermediated. It's not controlled by one person, right? I mean,
why should it be? I guess that's another question.
It definitely shouldn't be. And that's why when people say, do this with that economy, do that, it's not up to you. It's up to the individual people all over the country, dotted into small rural and township and kind of excluded areas. And it's up to them to run their business the best way they can, offer the prices people are willing to pay, try and get the goods that are of a quality that the people will approve of, and make ends meet. That's all it is. You don't have to control that. It sorts itself out.
I think South Africa, we are in a position where there's a lot that is wrong. You know, we have a lot to fix, basically. But I think we shouldn't use one specific issue to make the rest of the other issues escape their responsibility. We have this issue of Black people in the township losing their economy. This is, for me, solely responsibility of the government. And the fixing
how do they
of...
get involved? How does government get involved in this?
Number one, when they started to have malls in the township, like in my hometown, the mall is owned by a white person somewhere, whom, when there was riots and looting, took his time to say he's going to fix it because it's his mall. But I'm like, that mall killed a lot of businesses around the township. Why couldn't if they want to regulate the tax, go to the people who have these butcheries, small tuck shop existing, and say to them, how can we assist you and making sure that we find you to get a mall? I mean, we grew up with such tuck shops, and I understand and I get the point of the Tutula operation. But my point is that alone could not fix all our problems, because our problems are not solely linked to these particular foreigners that are only on tuck shops and Zimbabweans. I mean, when we say foreigners, who are we really talking about? Because since this has started, nothing that goes to the China Mall, for example, that killed a lot of Black people's economy. But no one wants to talk about that. The China cities killed a lot of black people's economy. They even have replicas of designers, South African designers who are trying to make their ends meet. They're being replicated in China City, China Mall. I'm not saying all of this must lie in one group of people.
Sure, but you have a simple choice at the beginning of any such conversation. The first choice is, are we going to have a free economy where people get to decide what they want to buy, when they want to buy it, how much they want to pay for it? Or are you going to have all of this controlled by the government? So this is classic kind of centralized control versus free market. The free market is something that doesn't require government. People will pay what they want to pay for what they want. So if they want the fake Chinese goods, that's the market demanding it. You can't tell them you must buy this stuff, because the minute you can't tell me I need to buy this phone as opposed to another phone. I'll say I want that phone, and you can't.
Yes.
I don't want government involved in that decision. So obviously that's part of it. The other thing is, if you have a centralized economy where the government make the decisions, look at how badly government has made all the other decisions in our lives. The reason I'm sitting here in the dark right now is because of government and their cuck decisions. So if we gave them the power to decide what phones cost or what label designer is allowed to sell in what area, can you imagine what a disaster that would be?
But the thing is, the Chinatown exists, but every day we see all these mamas who are trying to sell by the side of the road being kicked off. So it's like, for me, black people want money, guys. Like, I don't think people understand
Everyone
how much, in a sense of just to make a living. If people will have their toilets, their hospitals, police station, everything working, no one will care who's stealing whatever millions in the. Whenever they talk about these millions, it's money that we've never seen. We know for a fact we will never ever see possibly in our lives. That's not our major problem. Our major problem is our day-to-day living. My thing is that eventually this thing is going to go back exactly like the Nkatha and ANC.
Oh, so you mean
seeing black people fighting together is a problem for me.
All right,
because I'm a dark-skinned girl. I can easily be a Zimbabwean when the shit hits the fan. So I'm very sensitive about that part.
So this is then revealing something about our character as South Africans. It's more, and this is more scary. This is much more difficult to discuss than economics, because if we're just talking about mamas on the side of the road who are trying to sell their stuff, then obviously the last thing we want is for the police to be harassing those people. If people are coming from Zimbabwe, from Somalia, or from wherever because they see opportunities here and they are able to do a better job than we are, then we have to look at ourselves and figure out how we can be competitive. And that's a tough thing to answer, because if we make special rules for South Africans, then we're not really an equal society. And if we treat foreigners differently just because they take advantage of opportunities and put themselves in often very difficult and dangerous and hardworking conditions to do a lot more difficult a job than we're prepared to do, then that's on us.
I guess that's what I'm saying, that the issue is there. The issue should be discussed. I'm not saying everyone is wrong or whoever, but I'm saying it's a critical one because it leads to death. It's easier for most black people to kill other black people because that's like, let's kill all these people. The killing on each side. Already they started saying the tavern killings are by foreigners.
Yeah,
there's no proof to this thing, but it's going around like that, and that's a very scary thought.
Yes,
and it's a very scary.
Yeah, I think the issue here is that they put in color with foreigners. You know, a foreigner is a foreigner is a foreigner. But the minute you start saying, "But you're only a foreigner because you're black," is the biggest issue, because that's then. Not looking at, that's why they bring up the whole, like, but there's people who have China City, for example, but there's also a lot of people that are European, and that's still a foreigner. That's still very much a foreigner. So I think that's where the dangers is when we start putting.
Celeste said just now that people, you know, the white guy who owns the shopping mall in a rural area. Now, it's possible for anyone to open a shopping mall in that area. You just got to take the risk. And the risk was proven last year during those riots, because if you were a shopping mall owner and you had built a shopping mall and then a whole lot of people descended on it, raided it, broke it down, looted it, destroyed it, that's on you. You took that risk. You can make the profit during the months when it works. But when that kind of thing happens, it costs you an absolute fortune. And you do say to yourself, well, why should I build another shopping mall there? The fact is, people want to go to the shopping mall. Otherwise, they would be buying from the street vendors. They want the shopping mall.
I guess my thing is, when we talk about foreigners, let's count that guy in, because the whole thing of calling foreigners people who are dark skinned, that's why my problem is, because I grew up in that space of Nkatha and IFP and ANC riots. That thing is, it's more like you are closer to Rwandan genocides, because when you start going to say the Zimbabwean this, hey guys, I'm dark skinned. Like, I'm very sensitive.
We know we've got this very complicated relationship with race, and we've got this very complicated relationship with xenophobia in this country, right? And it is largely, I mean, like, you'll find, for example, the average Zimbabwean finds it very difficult, even if they've got a specific skill set, even if they've spent a lot of time in this country, they may have spent more than 20 years here, they still have trouble fitting in some places. And then we have our own people who are saying very often, no, I don't have a problem with foreigners unless ... So it's almost like, well, you're okay, and we're more than happy to have you here, my brother, my sister. But then as soon as things aren't going exactly the way that we want them as South Africans to go, then we've got a problem with them. And part of our problem is that we like to other each other. We like to say, you're not from here, or you're white, or you're black, or you're Chinese, or whatever else. So that is an us problem. That's not a them problem.
But the problem is, most people, when you say to them, okay, foreigners, let's have white people go, no, we need white people, because there's a subconscious thing that and it's something that we need to face as black people. Whenever people talk about, we can't stay by ourselves. If you can see that with white people, see it with other foreigners. You can't select and choose and say these foreigners are investors, because every white person that comes into the car is an investor. That's where my problem is. To fix this problem, of course, my sister's got 2 husbands. They were not here because they were for investors. They were here. They got our wives. No one beat them up. I've got French in-laws because everyone understood that they are from France.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
You know, this is the thing of other. If you consider that someone is different to you because race, gender, sexuality, country of origin, then that's a you problem. That's not a them problem. They're coming to South Africa like anybody is allowed to. You're allowed to come into South Africa. And by the way, it's not like our government are able to stop people from coming into the country illegally.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's on planes from Europe or from China or from anywhere else, or whether it's on, across the Limpopo River. We mustn't differentiate between those, because it's the uselessness of the government that has resulted in illegal immigration.
I guess that's where my point is. I think I have a problem when now this has become, it's slowly brewing to an EFF versus Dudula. And I'm like, where's the ruling party? Where are the people that created all this mess? When are we pointing towards them? You know what I mean? Like, for me, that's where I am. Again, I think we must also get into a point in South Africa to understand that we can discuss these things by people not calling me and saying, yeah, Celeste, because she's speaking to Gareth, she's a better black. I'm not better black. I'm just saying the truth
and also,
what I feel.
Celeste, why don't we also realize that, like, if people are buying from the supermarket rather than from the street vendor, that's their commercial decision. So if I believe, like, you must support the local butchery. I believe you must support the local person who's got a small shop, because but that's a difficult thing for you to do, because you now have to go to 5 different places rather than just go to one place. And as consumers, we have to make those decisions, because we can't blame the shop owner. We can't blame the mall owner. We can't blame the person who's picking the fruit. You have to blame yourself if things aren't going the way that you want them to go. You want to support the local economy? You help those people. If you know someone who has a butchery, go to them and support them, even if it's 5 kilometers extra.
And I guess that was my thing, to say if there could be less violence and more mental decision. Like, I make it my point to make sure that I work with as much as black people in my space and whatever that I need, from designers, makeup, whatever I need. I try to look for black people. That's my motto, because I understand our economy issue. Like, that's my choice. All I'm saying is,
you do see, though, that saying that you're othering also, because then some Chinese person who can offer you a better service maybe, or can do it cheaper for you, saying, oh, well, why can't you? It
goes back to the choice that you said I had. It's my choice. So I'm saying, if we can make that a choice rather than to say, let's beat this one, the energy of violence.
Sure, but then you mustn't. But then no foreign national is going to get your business. Is basically what you're saying.
It's my choice.
Right. No, you can do that.
It goes back to that choice. All I'm saying is it's my choice because I understand what I'm trying to contribute towards when it comes to the economy that we're talking about. Absolutely. My contribution is to make sure that the people that look like me, that come from me, because I understand our plight. It's got nothing to do with the next person. It's got everything to do with the understanding of where...
It's a kind of othering. Like I don't think about that when I buy from somebody. I like to support small business owners, whether they are Pakistani, black, white, Indian. I don't care, because I want people who do a good job, but I want to support the smaller guy just because the big ones are going to make money anyway, and this economy needs all the help at the bottom that it can get. So maybe we're on the same page.
We are on the same page. All I'm saying is I deliberately go for people who've suffered like me because I understand. It's like saying... People like to say we are the community of this. When you start loving yourself, it doesn't necessarily mean you hate the other person.
Yeah, I got you.
You know, Indian people have been doing this for years, and they're doing it till now. They make sure they look for an Indian person, and it's good for them. You can't say they're othering you. There are a lot of things that are involved in making this thing. Number one, I'm a big girl. Whenever I look for a stylist that doesn't understand my body, we have a problem. And I know I've had this problem. So
I would be a terrible stylist for you.
you know what I mean? And people take it whenever they see me, they see African prince, which is I don't have a problem with. But I'm not a face of an African prince. You know, which is now I go back to saying, let me go to my girl who will understand where I come from, who will understand who I am. As much as I'm a Zulu girl, this is my vision. This is where I want to look. This is where I am. I'm also a superstar. I want to look in a certain way. It has a lot to do with me saying, why will I go outside when there are people within my range that understand what I want? Of course, if there's a white guy out there with something nice, it doesn't necessarily mean that I won't buy it. But I'm saying I deliberately make a decision to make sure that I go to my people because I know what they need. If I don't contribute, at least let me do that. You know what I mean? I'm not othering the others. I'm just saying...
Simpiwe, you get the last word on this, and then we're going to hear about the world outside of our stupid nonsense here on planet Earth. There's a whole universe beyond us, which is much bigger and much more exciting than our little battles. I still think that if the aliens heard us bickering about bullshit like buying from foreign nationals, they'd just laser the hell out of the Earth and blow us up.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, I think we're just seeing the manifestation of what our government used to say all the years when everyone would ask them, what's the problem? No, but you see the apartheid regime, and you see it's because of apartheid. And now you have the everyday man, when they're upset and mad, they always look at race. Like that's the issue, is that they can't look at things to say, okay, what happened? What went wrong? Why can't I buy this? They'll go back to race and say...
It's not just race. They also look at they want to blame somebody else, always.
Yeah.
It's never me. It's never my decisions. But
it's a leadership thing. Yeah. So because our leadership always did that, the everyday man is like, so when Zuma was blaming everybody else for everybody else's things, I can do the same. And now that's what we're seeing happen with the everyday man saying, yeah, but it's you, and it's never me, or what can I do to change the situation? So until that changes, guys, it's just gonna get worse.
You are so right. No, you're spot on. I mean, and the whole reason we've got this problem now is because the borders are pretty much open. You know, whether you're flying in on like the Gupta's wedding plane and landing at Waterkloof Air Force Base because you've got connections, or whether you're coming across the border with just your backpack from Zimbabwe, like that's the same problem. Nobody's looking after the borders. Anyway, let's move on, because our borders are completely artificial and everything about our life on Earth is kind of ridiculous when we look out into the stars. And the person who helps us to figure out what's going on outside of our planet, person who's looking at the big picture, and now, thanks to a new telescope, is looking at ever clearer and more beautiful pictures, is none other than Professor David Block. Now, he's no stranger to the show, and everybody knows and loves Professor David Block. And I saw a tweet of his just the other day, that, in fact, it was yesterday, Prof, that he put this out. He said, why the excitement? Well, I'll tell you why. And he put up a picture, which I'll share with you in a moment. Professor David Block, how are you, sir?
Oh, it's wonderful to see you this morning. I've reached you sitting here in the dark at home. So thanks to a restaurant nearby, I can see you live, and I'm looking up.
Well, Prof, we're very glad that you are at a place where you could connect with us. And I'm sorry you had to get into your car and drive around this morning just so that you could be part of our show.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
But it's very special to have you on the show. So tell us why we should be excited about this new telescope and what it shows us that we haven't seen before.
Gareth, that's such a brilliant question. You know, the detail is absolutely, in one word, astonishing. We are looking back around 13.6 to 14 billion light years in time, and suddenly, in a tiny swath of the sky, you are seeing myriads of galaxies being born shortly after the Big Bang event some 14 billion years ago. Oh, but Gareth, there is more. There is so much more. What's terribly interesting is this. If you look at that image, you'll see pink-shaped arcs all over the image. And what is happening there is that light from these distant galaxies is being bent in cosmic space and in cosmic time to create these glorious arcs around these galaxies. It's the most incredible view of the embryonic stages of our universe. For the first time, we can see in the greatest of detail stars being born far away, galaxies being born still in their natal stages. It's as if the universe at that stage was pregnant with baby galaxies, with baby stars. It's awesome.
Prof, when you talk about this stuff, it just strikes me how much you love what you do. But this telescope, tell us about the genesis of this telescope, why it's so much better than the Hubble. Why do we have such levels of clarity? Is it further away? Is it superior technology?
Yes. No, it's everything of that. The Hubble Space Telescope, Gareth, had a mirror around 2.4 meters across, around 100 inches in the L system, whereas this is 6.5 meter mirror. But there's much more. In this case, so in other words, it's the world's largest space infrared telescope, by far, much bigger than Hubble. Also, the mirror is not one solid piece. The mirror is broken up into 18 segmented petals. And so the technology was so advanced that they actually folded the entire mirror system up to launch the JWST, the James Webb Space Telescope, into space. And then behind the moon, they opened it up into one gargantuan big mirror. It's astonishing technology to align, just imagine to align two such petals, but to align 18. Also, not only is it much bigger than the Hubble Space Telescope, but it's much further from the Earth, and it's sort of shielded from the sun behind the moon. So it can operate in very pristine conditions with its much greater mirror, with its much greater light collecting area. It can start showing you the very natal, coeval stages of stellar birth. It's like this, Gareth. I feel this morning like a stellar gynecologist studying heavenly bodies. That's the truth.
We've got the very talented Celeste Ntuli on the show with us this morning. And Celeste grew up in rural KZN, and one of the things about growing up in a place where there isn't a whole lot of artificial light is you see more of the stars. And this is true for this telescope as well.
Yes, that's right.
Part of the reason that we can see so much is what you just said about the fact that it's behind the moon, so there's less of the sun's light, which is polluting those pictures. We get to see a lot more detail. And that's true for people who live far away from cities, right?
That's absolutely right. I mean, in days gone by, there was a famous observatory at Wits called the Yale Observatory in Yale Road. Why could they set up an observatory? Why could Yale University set up an observatory in Yale Road, North? Well, the reason was the skies were pristine. It was dark. Johannesburg City was in its infancy. What kills astronomical observations are city lights. And that's why on Earth, I have to travel, for example, to Hawaii or to very remote observatories in the Atacama Desert in Chile. I have to go to the most remotest places on Earth to be able to get away from the pollution. Now, you've got 2 points here. We've got pollution, the Earth's atmosphere we have to contend with. Here, the James Webb Space Telescope is exactly that, Gareth. It's a space telescope, which means we don't have to worry about moonlight. We don't have to worry about huge starlight coming through the atmosphere. Think of this. We never, ever have to worry about a cloudy night. You know, I might travel halfway around the world, and it might be cloudy, and then I can't see a thing. But there is no cloud whatsoever, of course, in space. And so for many different reasons, and specifically to get away from bright sunlight, it's so crucial. Do bear in mind, Gareth, too, this is an infrared telescope. It's different to the normal optical telescopes. It's primarily an infrared telescope, which means that it can detect these incredible rays which have traveled for so many, there we go, billions of light years. That's the image. Now you are looking some 13 billion years into time. Notice those arcs everywhere. Light from distant galaxies is bent around a foreground cluster, creating those gravitational arcs, an effect predicted by none other than the genius, the legendary Albert Einstein. It's a confirmation of so much. But Gareth, I suppose what captivates my spirit this morning so much at this restaurant is that we are so focused here on the smaller things and very important things, sitting in the dark. Here we are literally, by means of the world's most sophisticated telescope, seeing details which we could never, ever have imagined 20 or 30 years ago.
Phenomenal.
Wow.
Phenomenal. Celeste and Simpiwe, I'm sure you've got some questions for Prof too, but I just want to quickly reiterate this point that I think is really important. We're not just looking far into the distance, Prof. We're also looking far into the past. I mean, this is probably the furthest we've been able to see with our eyes in terms of looking back in history, because some of those galaxies that we see in this picture that I just put up, some of those are probably already extinguished. Some of them are probably already dead. There are stars there that are no longer in that position.
Yes. I think that's so interesting, is that in astronomy, we are always looking back in time. You know, Gareth, every time I look at the sun, I'm not viewing the sun as it is now. I'm viewing the sun as it was 8 minutes ago. I'm looking back 8 minutes in time, because light traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second in vacuum takes 8 minutes to reach our eye. So if the sun had to die in quotes this second, I would only know about it in another 8 minutes time. That's the sun. With these galaxies, we're looking back 14 billion years in time. So yes, these galaxies are now, of course, if we could see them, would be very mature adults. We're not looking at the baby stages. Many of the stars in those galaxies might have already exploded into supernovae. That's the whole wonder of astronomy, is you're not only looking back further into time, but you're continually able to go further and further into the past. It's like looking back, it is, in fact, looking back in history long before the Earth was ever formed.
Well, Prof, I really appreciate you going to the trouble of getting to a restaurant with internet connection. Celeste, Simpiwe, over to you. Have you got anything you want to ask the great professor until we let him have his coffee this morning?
I'm going to ask such a lame question. I grew up in rural areas, and we will see the shooting stars. We always believe that we are lucky that day, and we'll say all our wishes. Is that a myth, or is that a real shooting star?
Is that what?
Is that a myth to say when you see a
shooting star? Yes. Of course, that's lovely. I think it's part of the human psyche. I think it's part of the human imagination to want to look up and to want to connect your dreams with something heavenly. I think it's grounded deep within our souls. Is it not, for that connection, that higher calling, as it were? And I think that just a little story, wish upon a star, wish upon that twinkling star. Of course, it's a scientific myth. You can't wish upon a rock. I mean, a shooting star is none other than a tiny little piece of rock in space. But it's part of that sense of wonder placed within us, awe placed within us, that we are born not to look down and to worry about looting, as important as it is, but we are born to try and connect with the bigger God-given universe out there. It's extraordinary, it's magical. And when you say, I see that shooting star from that rural area, you want to connect, you want to see your dreams realized, you want to live with the cutting interface of your dreams, you want to be born for a brighter tomorrow.
I love how you speak about astronomy. Like, literally, I just want to shut up and let you listen. Like, I want to listen to everything.
You are too kind.
One last question. You've been saying that we see the future, we see the past at the same time. What is, if one is interested, like, to literally, even if it's not studied to be a professor like you, but to have a better and a bigger understanding, what is one thing that does to us when we have that understanding of the other galaxies? Of course, other than to understand that we are just this minute thing in the whole earth.
What a lovely question. You know what it does to me? Yes. You know what it does to me? It sets me on fire. With Eskom, I'm very aware of the lighting of the candle. Very aware of the lighting of the candle. Very aware of the lighting of the candle. And these images light my candle to such an extent that here I'm sitting at a restaurant with people around me and my candle is blazing. That's what it will do for you. If you look at some of these images, you might not understand all the intricacies thereof, but it lights your candle. You are born to love. You are born to dream. You are born to use your intellect to think in the dark to the light.
Oh. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gareth. My day is made. You don't understand how much I love astronomy.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great to see you. Thank you, Professor David Block. And I know he's the best. He sent me a message yesterday. He's like, "Why aren't you talking about this telescope?" I said to him, "Well, Prof, I don't know anything about it." So we got him on at the last minute, and well done to Dorian Simpiwe for getting him on the show. What a great guy. And he's so, he's the most enthusiastic person in the world about what he does. And it just reminds me, like, if anybody doing anything, whether your thing is air conditioning or growing plants or selling the citrus fruit that the Europeans won't let us sell to them anymore. If you just love it, if you love it like he loves astronomy, people are drawn to that. People just they find it so attractive.
His passion is just great to. I literally wanted to just listen because how he speaks. I mean, I didn't even know what telescopes does and what. It's the first time hearing all this information, but. He took me somewhere, and he's such a great storyteller. That's why I love OGs.
Yeah, isn't it wild to think that when you're looking at those images like this one here, that you're not just seeing far away, but you're also seeing way back in time. I mean, 14 billion years is such a big space of time, if you'll pardon that pun. It's such an enormous quantity in terms of numbers to think about.
Yeah.
Someone said to me the other day that if you just thought of your life in seconds, right? And if you consider, like, time is a great way to figure out how big a number is. So if, for example, the human life in seconds, I'm just going to look this up because I don't want to get the numbers wrong. So that you can see how. So we live approximately in your life, you'll live 22 million seconds. That's all.
Wow.
That's all you've got. Just 22 million seconds. So if you think about, like a billion seconds would take you in a human life approximately 31,688,222 days. 222 seconds. I mean, that's just an enormous number. If you think about how long that would be.
Damn.
A million seconds is 11 days. A billion seconds, 31 years. A trillion seconds. You know, there are people figuring out. I think I gave out the wrong number in the middle there, but that's essentially something that it's too big for us to consider. If you think about 14 billion, that was when the universe was born.
Sure.
Wow.
The Earth only came about some 4 billion years ago. So for the first 10 billion, there was no Earth for us to live
on.
It's extraordinary.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I'll find that seconds thing because there's a much more tidy explanation than the one that I tried to give you off the cuff just now.
But even the 8 minutes of the sun minute that you was talking about is very interesting. To think that I'm looking at something that has already passed 8 minutes ago.
Yes, that's amazing.
Really, it's crazy. I thought I'm looking exactly what I'm looking at. Like,
Steve says, suddenly I don't feel so old anymore.
You're actually quite young.
Yeah.
Siabonga says, Prof Block, he's so awesome and has a great sense of humor. Prof, I still wish upon a star when I see a shooting star. I think a lot of
we used to spend our summer nights literally searching forward because summer nights are beautiful in the rural areas because the skies are clear, the moon, even the sun, even if it was blazing hot, as the sun sets, you just want to sit there under the tree. So that was our thing. Like if you see a shooting star, you're like, your whole day or the month is made.
Shame. Prof had to go to a restaurant nearby just so he could have internet so he could talk to us this morning. So see, people are going to trouble to make things happen. Load shedding affects everybody, even the great.
That's why I'm here.
So
I woke up.
Carl says, Gareth, I sometimes think you're pretending to be bad at numbers, but you really fucked that up, lol. Right. I tried to make sense of it in a second, but didn't make it. I would need 5 years to figure that out. Go ahead, Celeste.
That's why you're a broadcaster, not a mathematician.
It's all right. Oh my God.
No, that was a very nice and eye-opening thing. I saw something very interesting on my way here on the internet, that Germany was announcing that most of the pilots that were vaccinated are not fit to fly.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Now the ones that couldn't vaccinate, of course, they decided not to. They were let go of. So now they have an issue of vaccinated pilots who can't fly.
Well, I know that.
How interesting is that?
In South Africa, it was not mandatory for the pilots to get vaccinated, and most of our pilots are back up and running in the jobs in the airlines that survived. And I say that advisedly because obviously some of the airlines don't exist anymore, and some of them are kind of half and half not. That's why it's so expensive at the moment to fly. But look at this, talking about vaccinations. So New Zealand was the most vaccinated country in the world, right? 95% of people there are vaccinated. 75% of people there are boosted. They've also still got a mask mandate. And look at this. Here's something that just proves what a stupid set of circumstances all of that is. Deaths in New Zealand are once again as high as they've ever been. This is yesterday, with over 95% of the eligible population fully vaccinated, 75% boosted, and a mask mandate. Just goes to show you how easy it is to control COVID with interventions. And then there's the chart, which shows you, if you look at the end of it there, this is where it spikes suddenly. That is February, March, April of 2022. And it's just gone to a new record high in July of 2022. Well done, New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, you morons. Look, made no difference. Your stupid vaccinations, your stupid mask mandates, your stupid boosters did nothing. They're
still dying. This is crazy.
Yeah, well, those are not deaths. So those are the infections. Oh, no, sorry. Those are deaths. Those are deaths. Yeah. You're quite right.
Those are daily.
The black,
which one?
The black is daily deaths.
Oh,
deaths.
Lord. Oh, Lord.
Kind of
No.
spiky.
So well done, New Zealand. That's great to see. So Again, Jacinda Ardern and his stupid government thinking that they had the solution. Do you remember everyone was praising them at the beginning of COVID because they had the mask mandate and they locked down and they kept everyone out? New Zealand is an island. Obviously, it's 2 islands. And they decided they're going to keep everybody out. And that was how they were going to stop themselves from getting COVID. Well, it didn't help, did it? Mm-hmm.
Lord. And that's why I didn't want to be an ambassador for vaccines. I've always said, I don't know. Do what you can do. I don't know. Because now there's my friend because I was in Dublin a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. The airports are filled with people who can't, those European countries that are the poor Europeans, the Polands and the and all other type of Europeans. There are the people that are literally at the airports booking and flying. The English is broken to all the UK airports. I was like, wow, okay, you guys are not from here like me. The English is broken because people, like you say, the airlines lost a lot of employee staff and a lot of revenue, and most of them are closed. So there's so much vacancies when it comes to airlines and traveling airport work.
I don't know if you fly a lot because you're doing shows all over the country, but are you doing a lot of local flights, and have you noticed how much more expensive that's become?
It is. I was in Durban, hugely expensive. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah, and July.
No. I actually went on a Sunday for the comedy show. There's a comedy picnic that I was performing at Shembe Comedy Picnic on a Sunday. But I know this because I do
Shembe Comedy.
No, Simpiwe Shembe. Oh, well, he's a family, definitely family. We make jokes about him.
I thought you meant the church. I was like,
he's from the church. He's born from the church. But he's a comedian. Yeah, but he's a comedian. But that's his family. We always laugh whenever he's about to pay us. Please don't pay us with the Vaseline. Give us the proper check.
Because we were talking about this with Pumi Mashiko on Thursday last week about the Shembe Church and how it's the second biggest church in South Africa. And they've got millions of people who are members of that church and who follow. And you say that he's the family. He's actually from the family.
Yeah. But he's a comedian as well. Like sometimes he goes, whenever he performs, the Shembe thing comes to him, and then he finds himself preaching in the middle of a comedy set.
Well, listen, Celeste, while we're talking about you, because we only got a couple of minutes left of the show, have you already prepared all your stuff for the Khanyi Mbau roast? Because I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about Khanyi.
I've been working, but I know for a fact that I want to avoid those typical skin jokes. I mean, what else are we going to say? He's pink, she's pink, she's pink. What else do you have to say? Like,
I'm blacker than Khanyi.
Of course. Like I said, she's like Cape Town. She avoids the fact that she's South African. Oh no, I want to be white. I want to be European. Let me go and stay in Dubai. No, I think more than anything, Khanyi Mbau is one of the artists that I feel like I wish we see more of the acting part sometimes, because it's easy to roast someone based on their work. When you
don't go say nice things. Don't go. You're meant to be a roast. I
don't want to be nice. I'm not gonna be nice. One thing for sure, I'm not gonna be nice. I did the roast with Jeff Ross. I was nice. I got fucked.
Now you've learned. Now you've learned.
Oh no, I've learned my lesson. Dylan Oliphant killed me. Said when I hop on the scale. You remember when Zuma was still a president? Yes. Said when I hop on the scale, the scale says 1,500,000. Crowd went crazy.
That's great.
So from that joke, I know that I must kill or be killed. You know what I mean? Yes. Like we were talking about assisted killing. Assisted death.
Yeah. Is that what you're going to do? You're coming for anybody now? Guns blazing. Hey.
This is the thing. I haven't done a roast in South Africa, period. And I haven't done some of the roasts because I was like, I'm sorry. There's no way. I'm the king of comedy. And there's no way I'm gonna, now that this one, the roast master is pop-ups, I'm like, okay, now we're talking comedy. Because another thing I think about South Africa, don't understand the roast. It's a roast. I must say this now. It's a roast. I don't want no woke feminist people on Monday coming up on me. It's a roast.
Canceling you.
Right.
It is a roast. People can say whatever they want to say. Like, I like that in this age of cancel culture, to be on the roast. It's the most beautiful thing because it's like a freedom of expression. Once again, they're going to say shit to me. I'm going to say shit to them.
Right. No sacred cows.
No sacred cows. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, I'm not that much of a controversial person. It can be what I say. But...
You can.
Since you're coming guns blazing, we don't know.
You can get in the ring with the best of them.
You know,
I do think it's brave of Khanyi Mbau to do this, because I think a lot of people who get roasted, it takes a certain amount of confidence, because people are going to go for all the obvious things. They're going to go for all your faults. Yeah. And having been involved in the Somizi roast, I know that you put yourself out there, but you've got to kind of accept that whatever people are going to say is going to be hilarious, and it's part of the fun.
But the thing is, the nice thing that was brutal. The Somizi one. You guys went in. But the nice thing is, they're gonna say it once.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Like, Gareth, if people say to you now, "Oh, Gareth is racist," how many times have you heard that? I'm sure I don't even want to go there with you, because.
But you know what? That's the funny thing, right? It's like once someone has said the worst thing that you can think about, then after that you stop caring about what those people think, unless they really are people who you respect, and unless it's something that you feel is true, and it's a part of your character you want to change. Like, otherwise it's like, you're going down that street again. I've been there a million times. I don't care.
Yeah. It's like people come up to me and talk about being big, and that's, I'm like, try something better, you know. go somewhere else. So all I'm saying is, no feminist movement whatsoever. We're going in. This is life. This is the roast. I'm going in. There's no way I'm going to also drop the ball as the biggest comedian I am.
Yes,
on Netflix. And try
Come
to
on,
make people. No, I'm not. I've never died in my life. I'm not dying on that stage. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yes.
So I'm going in.
I love this from Siyabonga says, "Preach, Celeste, preach. Woke activists, stay away from the roast." Absolutely.
Yeah. Stay away, because I'm going to go in this whole thing of, Celeste and Khanyi, you are both women. Hey, we are roasting them.
It's
You're
a game.
Going to be
women
on that day, you're not
the
friends.
roast. After the roast, when we're having the champagne, now I'm going to be like, yes, Khanyi, what's up?
Well, exactly. And the funny thing is, like, people think that just because you disagree with somebody, or because you're employed to make fun of them in a roast, that now you're going to hate them afterwards. I mean, that's so childish. It's ridiculous.
No, I've never hated that. And that's another reason why I'm doing the roast. I don't hate it. Why should I? Like, there's no hate here. I don't think she even, so calm down.
Kanye's putting herself out there because she's not afraid. Tremaine says, bring Celeste back. Well, she's see, already they're calling for more.
I told you I'm going to take over.
Taking over.
Central is coming. You see how I blocked the cliff?
Central, yes. I see that. Look,
it wasn't a mistake. Central. You did that on purpose, huh?
Celeste
she took away the cliff and was just like...
Celeste said to me at the start of the show this morning, she said, I only came into the studio so I could charge my phone.
Yeah. I was load shedded. I was like, damn. At least I need to charge. Let me go with Gareth. They said she's got an engine. He's got an engine. And you know what? We're going to start speaking like Nigerians now because of the load shedding.
Yes.
Everyone has been wondering why Nigerians speak like they're shouting. It's the generator.
Yeah, because you have to shout over the generator.
That thing is so loud.
Every community has generators. You start shouting.
In the background.
Gareth! Can you borrow me songs?
What are you going to do in this? Why are you talking so loud all the time?
Yeah, I have to tell you guys this real quick. So my sister lives in an estate, and it's basically like omunye pez gomunye type of vibe. And she's telling us that there's one house that has a generator, and because that thing is so loud, all the other houses can hear. the generator on. So they called like a bit of a meeting, you know, to say, guys, your generator is making too much noise during load shedding. Please fix that. Fix that. We can't have that kind of noise when everybody else is in the dark.
Right, listen, everybody, have a happy day, and we will be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. bright and early. Be good. Celeste Ntuli, thank you so much for being part of the show. We love you lots.
Thank you so much. Catch me on the roast and catch me on my show, Money and Men.
There we go. Do it. Don't miss any of that stuff. It's all fantastic. See you tomorrow, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.